Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. Robin and I are thrilled week after week to feature women who are truly making a difference in our society by lifting up women, supporting women, and helping women thrive. You may ask, why is it important for us to showcase that and elevate that and support women? And the answer is simple. Unless we women come together and embrace a mindset of abundance and lift each other up and support each other, none of us are going anywhere. This journey is going to take all of us, regardless of our differences in perspective, supporting one another so that together we can get someplace. Men have learned to do this very well. We women in our infancy in this endeavor need each other and need to learn to support each other. So in that vein, today we are excited to showcase Lauren Ashley. And Lauren, welcome to Women Investing in Women.
Thank you. So happy to be here. And Happy New Year to you both.
Oh yes, Happy New Year. As we enter the new year, you work with women, create a momentum through your Catalyst initiative to truly give them a roadmap and an opportunity through support and through mentorship and coaching to get to their dream, their goal, their purpose. What was the impetus for starting the Catalyst? And what is your goal through your Catalyst program?
The impetus, I have to say, was the onset of the pandemic. So a lot was shifting in my own life. I was going through a lot personally, professionally. I was questioning everything basically in my life, where I was headed in my career, feeling like I was very much stuck, stagnant, not doing what I wanted to be doing. And I had some ideas, but was always afraid to take that step into whatever that next thing was going to be. So I decided, what better time than to start a life coaching program, right? Mid-pandemic, when I have a 3-year-old at home with me, basically full-time at that point too. So that was kind of my push to start doing something different. I always wanted to do something to support people, and it became really focused on women at that point because I felt like we were all facing something very unique during the pandemic, and it was bringing a lot of things to the surface for many of us. And out of curiosity, I kind of started what I call now a social experiment, which was reaching out to women and starting conversations around their experience during the pandemic. And I would usually start every conversation with the same question, which was, what have you learned about yourself during this time? Because there was a lot I was learning about myself. There was a lot I was shifting, changing, some of it organically and some of it by choice. And I kept hearing a lot of the same stories echoed back to me, different flavors, because they're all going through our unique experiences, but so much around this idea that we felt like we were collectively meant to be doing more, that we were feeling stuck in our lives. And this had really brought it to the surface. And I knew it wasn't just going to be, let's work on things professionally together, because let's face it, in the process of becoming a coach, I realized much of what we're trying to change in our life intersects professionally and personally. So even when I have people come for coaching around professional reasons, they want to elevate in their career, they want to pivot in their career, we're always talking about their personal life at the same time. So what I realized was there weren't very many spaces where the whole woman could go and be fully supported. Everything felt very niche down, a lot of professional spaces, which felt very transactional to me. No depth of connection was being made. And that was really what I saw as the opportunity and where I wanted to take the community that I started building from that social experiment to. Let's really focus on building relationships with one another so we can be the kind of support we need to be for each other. And we're not just leveraging each other, being in a space where it just felt, like I said, very transactional and we're just trying to get from each other. I want it to be very much built on reciprocity and this notion that when we are in relationship with one another, we are much more apt to actually support and uplift one another. So that's really what I've been focused on since 2020. And I launched officially last year in 2023. So that's kind of been the journey to where I am now. And where we're going is hopefully creating spaces for women to really explore, one, themselves. What do you actually want? Because that was the big question I had for myself. What am I trying to create for myself? And then also, how do I actually do this thing? How do I get the support I need, knowing I'm much more powerful when I have a very supportive, encouraging, and inspiring group of women around me, kind of rallying around me and supporting me in the ways that I maybe couldn't support myself, because we all have different skill sets, strengths. And I really lean into that for my own endeavors. And I'm seeing the women already, even in the first 6 months of being in existence, doing the exact same thing I was doing, building those relationships, leveraging them in a heartfelt way where things are finally now moving forward for maybe the first time in their lives around something that they're really passionate about. So that's really why we exist, why we come together.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. It sounds like you lived and are living what you are helping the women to do. You have this idea, you want to uplift women, and how do I do it, and how do I move forward? Who so far have been the types of women that have connected with you, or you being able to connect with? And what are the types of women that you would like to attract and bring into your services in your community?
Right now, when I launched, I had I had a big set of values. So there's certain values we uphold in the community, and I won't list them all, but like I said, reciprocity was one of them. Lifelong learning was a big one because I tended to be around very like-minded women. So who I attract, I feel like, are maybe a version of me or a current version of me, which is we lead with being heartfelt. So we're heart-centered. We want to build relationships. We're not interested in surface level connection. And then growth-minded. We want to learn and grow, and we believe we are more apt to do that around our peers. So those are really the two main criteria. From there, I say it's always an energy. I talk to every single person that comes into my community. I'm in relationship with them because it's very important as the founder that I kind of walk the walk. I'm in relationship with everyone. And I'm also doing a fair amount of connecting myself. That's a big part of what I bring to the table, is meeting everyone, knowing where they're at any given moment, so I can introduce them to the right woman at the right time. Because let's face it, like, we're all moving through lots of different things at any given moment. And I wanted this to be a space where no matter what was going on, if something came into your life tomorrow that you needed support around that you weren't prepared for, you could come to the community and say, I need to talk to someone about this, and find the right person for you. So that's kind of how I operate in this space. And for me, it's really women that, like I said, want to build those relationships, really want to be in that energy of truly having women that got their back and want to support them in whatever it is that they're working on in their lives.
That is fantastic. And what resonates for me is the way you phrase that you don't have a relationship with women, you're in relationship with the women, right? There's a huge difference in that. And so that is a beautiful imagery and a beautiful way of voicing that. What are some of the challenges you've run into in being in relationship with women? Because women are not always free to pursue what they want to because they have other things to do, right? Women have to raise a family. There's what I call the unpaid work in their life, which takes up a full time. Mm-hmm. Then they are in a job to provide. And then they are trying to do something different. And so they have 3 or 4 different full-time things, and all of that causes stress. All of that brings baggage into that relationship. Yep. And I'm sure you have a good version of them for yourself. We all do. How do you make it work when, unlike men, women bring so much scenario and responsibilities to the table?
It's a really good question because that was one of my big concerns when I launched. I was like, oh, I've seen inside women's communities and I've seen the challenges of being pulled in all of those directions you just spoke of. I'm like, I am one of those women. I was like, I have a child, I have a full-time job, I have a side business, all of the things. So I can speak in true authenticity about being that person when I meet with women and know the struggle of even just showing up, of being pulled in all of those different directions. So that really was the big challenge, was even if I build the space, will they take advantage of it? Because there's so much going on in our lives all of the time. So it's a question many women would ask me, like, what is the commitment? I don't know if I can commit to this. This is, again, some of the coaching and the psychology of it that I talk to a lot of the women about is this is a space designed for you, but you are never going to get as much out of this as you put in. So if you want to be really passive and let me bring, the connections to you, which I do, that's fine. You can use that space this way. Otherwise, you can engage in the conversations that are happening because we do have a platform for, I would say, asynchronous communication. But really always reminding women that they have to take the steps if they want to move in the direction they want. And that's how I started. So I share my story a lot of being in that stuck place for a really long time, not taking action, knowing I needed to, finally meeting the right women that were kind of lighting a fire under me in a sense, and doubling down on myself. So I'm kind of the cheerleader in there a lot of the time, saying, this doesn't require no effort. You have to show up for yourself. But when you do, these women are here to support you too. And to make the ask also is something I always encourage, because as women, I've noticed this, you both probably have, we have a very hard time asking for help, especially the women I attract. We're very much givers. And I was like, remember, we're here for reciprocity. So it's a two-way transaction, if you want to call it a transaction. You ask and you receive. So creating opportunities for them to actually ask for the support that they need. And that's something this year that like I said, I'm really doubling down on, creating spaces. So not only can they coach each other, but they can get coaching from true coaches that can help step them through the process of getting into true motion and making things happen rather than just waiting for things to happen like I did for probably most of my life.
That's a very interesting comment. Taking action to make things happen as opposed to waiting for something to happen, or even knowing how and what to do are the right actions. So how do you get women, when they come to your organization or come to your group, to get into a mindset of taking action? Because that's a lot of, that's a lot of life is taking, in fact, maybe all of life is taking action. And so how do you get women, when they first are dipping their toes into meeting you, learning about the organization, and then becoming part of the community, what's the mindset shift that you find helps women to move into that, okay, I'm going to take action mode?
I think there's a couple things that help that. One is, I always say, just start having conversations. Because honestly, that's where it all started for me. I didn't know where anything was going to head. I didn't know what would happen when I made these connections. And that's kind of the beauty of it too. And the magic that I sell, it's like, it's very intangible, but it's also like trust that you're going to come into this space, meet some amazing women that may say things that inspire you or are doing things that inspire you and want to help you. Like a lot of them see each other in one another. So like I said, a lot of the members are like pieces of me. I see myself in them, or I see pieces of who I'm maybe headed towards. So we're all in this really cool space of just being open to possibility. So that helps, one, because a lot of it's like, do we even believe what we want is possible? Listen, meet these women, and you start to believe it. And then focusing on like the smallest things sometimes is always what I remind the women of. Like, we didn't get where we are in the stuckness overnight. If that's the feeling we're having or feeling stagnant, like it takes time to get in motion, but even the smallest motion can create the ripple we need to get to that bigger thing. So a lot of it is also me and all the other women focused on like the next right action, not maybe the big end goal that feels so ominous or like unattainable. What can we do right now? How can you lean into the support you have right now to do what you need? And sometimes it's really, really small steps, but a lot of small steps over time, as we know, add up to big things. So that to me is a win. And being, like I said, that cheerleader to say, you know what, you are doing the things. You're going to keep going, and we're going to help you in whatever way we can. We have people that have become proofreaders and copywriters for one another because, let's face it, we don't trust ourselves a lot of the time either. That was a big theme that came through actually this past month in talking to my members. Why aren't we taking action? Deep down, it's because we don't trust that we have the answers or we don't have the right action. But then once we talk to someone, we're like, actually, I do. It's just that I'm not doing the thing. So even having the accountability piece to say, you know what, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to keep following up with you and making sure you do the thing because you already know what you need to do. I'm just here to make sure you do. Sometimes it's that simple.
It's interesting you say that because girls are raised to be perfect little girls, good girls, right? To be acceptable accepted by parents, by the relatives, by society. So the conditioning is different. Unlike boys, you just don't go and jump and play and figure stuff out. Girls are not raised to be experimental. So there is this upbringing that is preconditioning of being perfect and the good little girl. Women are tepid about taking that step forward because, am I doing this right? Mm-hmm. What are people going to think, right? So breaking that cycle is what you're doing literally behind the scenes without calling it that. Mm-hmm. In that process, what are some of the techniques or tips you have found that works so that other women can take that and apply to themselves? And couple that with the importance of asking for help, because giving and receiving help creates a balanced relationship. Mm-hmm. If you're only giving and not receiving, that is the reason why relationships are not stable and relationships are not balanced, because we are bringing and introducing imbalance into it.
Yeah. It's the breeding ground for resentment, usually in any relationship. So I think I said, and Robin asked her question too, like the first step even there is find someone you can have a conversation with that will be like a true sounding board, or just someone like, I hate using the word venting because I feel like that's what women are told they do. We just vent to people. And it's really just like getting our thoughts out. So if you want to call it venting, call it venting. But sometimes that's as simple as it is. And even as a coach, that's what I find I'm there to do most of the time, is mirror back what I'm hearing and letting them hear themselves speak the words. So if you are not in a relationship with a woman that can hold that kind of space for you to do that, you'll never get there either. They won't ask the right questions. They won't actually be curious. So curiosity is one of our values. How can you ask questions that get a woman to expose more of what's under the surface? So they can realize, you know what, I already have some of the tools I need to do what I want to do. What are the missing parts of this? What gaps do I have? And where can I ask for the support I need, knowing I'm not going to be able to do everything most of the time. But having that perspective was a big reason why this community came to be, was I wanted to hear different perspective. I wanted to not be so stuck in my own head, or for people to say, you know what, you already know, like I'm hearing it, and having that echoed back was really powerful. That's why we hire coaches a lot of the time too, is to just help us really acknowledge and see the things we probably already know. So It's a special talent that coaches refine. And I think anyone can. I actually used to teach women how to coach one another. And it's a little bit of a component I will be adding to my community because there are some skills to it, obviously, how to ask the right questions, how to truly listen. But I feel like the women I already have in this space are naturally gifted in those ways. They're just going to elevate even further by being able to maybe ask more pointed questions and get more curious. But that's really been the biggest gift of this. And what I've seen women doing is actually holding the space and being able to unburden themselves a lot of time because that's how women feel. That was echoed back to me so many times of I just don't want to burden someone with what's going on. And I was like, trust me, when you do, you're going to have even more people rallying behind you because they're probably going through something similar or have lived it before. So it's actually a gift when you are vulnerable with another woman and she can see what's really going on beneath the surface. So you can really get the support you need finally. And again, get past that kind of surface level transactional connection where now I actually know you well enough to know what you need to support you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. Every single interview that we have, the time just zooms right by. And we always want to make sure before the time ends that people know how to get a hold of you, people who will listen to this in the future when it's released. So how could people get a hold of you and contact you and learn more about your work? And if there's any like final golden nuggets that you'd want to share with any women who are listening to this?
Yeah, I say the easiest way to get a hold of me is probably two ways. Obviously, the website, we are at catalyst.com. It's where all of the membership things happen. And I probably will answer a lot of questions around what is the community? What are we doing on the platform? How does it all work? But other than that, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much nowhere else these days, social media wise. So you can always connect with me, Lauren Ashley, on LinkedIn and start a conversation because that's honestly how I started the whole thing, was starting conversations, started on Facebook, but then moved completely to LinkedIn. And I'm continuing to have these conversations every day, every week, and hearing what it is that women need and the types of support they want and creating a space for this kind of energy we've been talking about where we actually can be ourselves, express what's going on in our lives, express our needs, and support one another. Because honestly, I feel like when we start supporting other people, it only helps us too. Like it is that kind of push to do the thing ourselves. So that would be the best way to interact with me. I think the only thing I'd say is community is so important. I think both of you know that. Finding the right one obviously is huge. And I know I'm not going to serve every woman in the world. That's actually not even my goal. But I'm obviously here, I believe, to support women in moving through their lives more gracefully, hopefully, and maybe with a little more ease, and to do the things that they want to do, not just talk about them. So for anyone that resonates with that, that's what Catalyst is all about. But I'd say double down on community. Make sure you have supportive women in your life, because I know for me, likely for the two of you, it's made all the difference in me feeling purposeful even in my life, or like I'm moving in the right direction.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Lauren. It has been an absolute delight to feature you and hear your purpose and your mission. I know that Robin and I are going to be looking forward to not only releasing this interview, but also directing others into the community and featuring women from your community here so that we can be the ones taking the baton from you and lifting each other up, the women in your community up, because that's what we do here, right? Creating visibility, giving them the opportunity to be seen and heard so that they can articulate their purpose and they can bring their purpose forward. So thank you so much for showing up here, talking about this, and reminding women as they step into a new year, step in for yourself. And for all the women out there, you are so good at putting everybody else's needs first. For once, start putting your needs first, because life is very much like you're in an airplane and the oxygen masks fall down, you can't be running around putting everybody else's mask. You've got to put yours first. You got to be stable. You got to be viable. You have to have the support system to breathe and function so that you can be there for everybody else. So check out Lauren Ashley, check out the Catalyst program, and check out Women Investing in Women. There are communities for women, and lean in so that we can lift each other up and we can build a better 2024 and leave a better world for our sons and our daughters.